The time is exactly 9:37. This is News and Views right here on Salam Media. Thank you for staying with us on the show. And next, we're going to be looking at a story on the Indian subcontinent. And let's look at this latest atrocity against Muslims. India's top anti-terrorism investigation agency has arrested prominent Kashmiri human rights defender Khurram Parvez under a very stringent terror law following a day-long raid at his office and residence in Indian-administered Kashmir. To talk to us about this latest atrocity is Salman Khan. He is the founder and chairperson of the South African Kashmiri Action Group. Salman, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, dear Judy, Ali, and also all the beautiful listeners of the Salam Media. It has been a long, long time that I've spoken to you and interacted.
Absolutely, absolutely. I hope you're well.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And I take my hat off to the people like you, Inayat Wadi, and few other people who stand up for the human rights violation in the occupied Kashmir. And you go way back to 1997-98.
Alhamdulillah, and obviously it is Salam Media who is obviously at the forefront of all of this. We are all about humanitarian journalism, so may Salam Media live for a long, long time, because the radio station does play a very, very important role in the lives of activists and bringing the right stories to the people. So let's talk about this imprisonment, incarceration of Parvez. Obviously, very concerning. Were these trumped up charges? What do you know, being an activist yourself, upholding the rights of the Kashmiri people? What more do you know about this arrest?
All right. Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity, Julie. It is a very sad moment in the face of the humanity, especially in a context of South Africa, which have a legacy of apartheid, legacy of human rights. And it is rightly so that the platform of your radio station has been provided to elude the unlawful and, the abduction and unlawful arrest of Khurram Parvez. He is also the coordinator of the Jammu and Kashmir Coalition Society and the chairperson for the Asian Federation Against the Involuntary Disappearance. There is a prelude, there is a background to what happened, why he has been arrested, because he's very well recognized, internationally recognized human rights activist. He has been given an award called Reebok Human Rights Award for a peaceful contribution toward the human rights abuses around the world. So he received an award in 2006, and $50,000 was given to him, and he donated that money toward the human rights, the NGOs in Kashmir. What is the background, Judy, here? He is an activist, he is a coordinator, and he is one of the researcher, very well internationally recognized researcher onto the human rights violation. He constantly, and he has been very persistent onto the arena of, unearthing the human rights abuses, the grapes, 5,000 grapes was found in 2005. What happened in the 16th of November, there was what we call it a fake encounter, where the Altaf Mudassir Gul Amir Magre in the district of Rambir, Srinagar, near the Handipura, the suburb, there was a 3 youngster who was shot dead in called a false counter-terrorist attack. And they were named as, they were terrorists, but they were just a scholar, they were just a young, good, the youth, and they were killed into a fake encounter, and they died in the custody of the police. There was a huge outcry, and a lot of people protested. Indian government was so scared to return their body, and they didn't want to return their body. They wanted to bury it. The father of the Amir was called just to show the face, but the body was not released. And that was a direct in contravention of the Geneva Convention, Article 14 of how the treatment of the dead bodies must be happened. And they violated all the things that has been given to us in 1947 under the pretext of the Declaration of the Human Rights. So now these 3 fake encounter, created such a commotion in Kashmir and internationally, that why they were killed, they were innocent, and according to the Indian, they were not, they were militant, and the whole of the Kashmir is engulfed into the protest. Now, Khurram Parvez has been coordinating from the ground zero what happened. And I think he had the finger on a pulse, and they know that he is very well connected internationally. So they come and created this, what they call it, they arrested him under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and they have taken him, which is the act was introduced in 1951 to stop the Dalitis and the lower caste to raise the voice against the India, and of course, the Assamese and other. And now that we call it UAPA, which is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, that has been now introduced for the last 10 years into the Kashmir to do exactly the same. So on the Monday night, they raided his house and the offices, taking away all the computers, the hard drives, and they're taking him to the unknown, undisclosed place. And we as a civil society, including your radio station, raising the awareness and also protesting against his arrest, because we know for sure that he was definitely one of the key person was behind investigating, unearthing why these people were killed and why their body was not returned to their parents.
Okay, all right. So, Salman, due to time constraints, I'm going to have to rush this interview, sadly. But anyway, we do know they confiscated his phone, laptop, books from his library. His wife and children were absolutely traumatized because they were woken up from their sleep whilst the house was being raided. What happens next now? Is there some sort of an international law that can intervene for his release? Because clearly they're not going to release him anytime soon if there isn't international pressure and intervention.
Yes, you are 100% right. We all need to play the part. The problem is, India is not a normal country. It is a banana republic. The revocation of the Article 370 has been internationally challenged. And because the problem is what you have just said, the international community. Look, what happened is when the Muammar Gaddafi killed 12 people, the NATO, the Allied, all the forces and United Nations took a resolution, and they bombard the whole place, and they kill not only the Gaddafi but thousands of the people. Indian government under the Modi is been doing worse than what Saddam Hussein or the Gaddafi done it to the people. But because it is concerning toward the Muslim, not against Muslim, United Nations is a stooge. It is very colonized. They're not going to take any action. So it is up to us. International bodies for the 74 years have not taken any resolution against India in terms of only the resolution. Yes, it is illegal occupation. There must be a referendum, but meaningful arrest. There is more than 5,000 cases that has been reported to the United Nations in the dossier of 500 pages. But United Nations is not moving forward. So I think we are captured. It's like, what, monopoly capitalists? We have the same problem in the United Nations. The United Nations is very colonized. It's only served the agenda of a Western power. If that was done in a Muslim country, they will get the United Nations resolution moved and they will bombard like what they done it in Libya and they done it in Sudan. They issued a warrant of arrest for the Umar Sawasid.
All right.
So this is the problem that we have.
Okay, Salman, let me ask you this very important question. We all have seen the Modi government's anti-Islamic stance. He's inciting a lot of violence against Muslims in India itself. And there's this whole thing around Islamophobia. We've never seen in the past 30, 40 years such a lot of anti-Islamic sentiment coming out of India. And Modi, undoubtedly, him and his government and the BJP party are the direct culprits in all of this. Are we now looking at the possible beginning of more harassment, arrests, intimidation as far as Muslims in Kashmir, not only in Kashmir, but the greater part of India is concerned as well?
Yes, 100%. You know what? Another time is too short. We have to have the second interview. Let me just give you a gist of the matter. Where the Modi come from? He raised from the ashes of the Gujarat massacre, where 2,000 people was killed, and he was fully complicit. The UK and United Nations call him a terrorist. He was banned to travel around the world. Now that the person, he give the rise to the Hindutva, Hindu RSS, Hindu extremism, and now India is no longer that we used to celebrate their secularism and their pluralism. India has turned into a Hindu Datava and the extremist state as a fascist under the pretext of the BJP and the RSS, and who is the top commander in chief is the Modi. We do not expect anything that he will do good against the Muslim, because what happened in Gujarat, from there the Hindu, the extremism and the Hindu, the fundamentalist rose to the power and bring him as a leader. And now we're going to have a burn and the worst to come, because the longer he is in office, because the Congress and the other party are too weak to remove him. And this is unfortunately what is going to happen is the Muslim and all the minority will be suffering under the hand of a Modi government. Unfortunately, India has lost the luster of a secular and a very inclusive state. Is no longer the case. Is the Muslims and the minorities are suffering, and they will continue to suffer until unless the people like you and me will continue to oppose, and we will fight. And maybe South African government take that message back to the India, that we need an India to be the India what used to be, not a bed, become a singular and also become a fascist Hindu Dhatava country under the auspicious leadership, I would say, of not auspicious, I would say the horrible leadership of a Modi.
I'm going to digress here a bit. Do you think that this is a direct result, going way back to 1948, with the time of partition? Did that start the resentment between Hindus and Muslims?
Well, I mean, that is a longer debate. We do not have a wider, the canvas to who done that? Who done that?
British.
It was exactly.
The colonialists. The colonialists.
100%. That is a divide and rule. The Pharaoh tactics, one of the Pharaoh tactics was to rule on the mankind was divide and tactics, and the British is one of the franchise. When they were leaving South Africa, what they done, the Zulus are the better nation, they put against the Burra and the Afrikaans. They've done the same thing in India and Pakistan. They've done the same thing in Palestine when they were putting out. That's why I always call it the dual Nakba. What happened? The Palestinian was leaving aside with the other Christian and Jews. When they were leaving, they created the state of Israel there. So wherever they were there, when they were exit from any part of the world, they left something, a Pandora of a problem behind. So the people will fight, and they still be in charge of that region. So that is 100% what you said. It was a British. Yes, this is what we're suffering. It was an unjust distribution. There was no need of a division. They make it the division, and they make sure that the Indian and the Muslim each other fighting until today, and they will continue to fight. And they left the Kashmir issue, which is the bone of contention. They should have resolved it before they leave, but they left it because they wanted this problem to prolong as long as possible. So people can say the British was a better ruler than the Muslim and Hindus cannot rule their own land.
Okay, my final question to you. And obviously, the partition was the foundation of all the problems right into the future and the present day. You're a Kashmiri yourself. How
Yes.
long do you believe, or when do you hope to see the Kashmiris being given self-determination, self-rule? Do you think that is possible sometime soon? And that
Yes.
is exactly what this is all about, is it not?
100%. The Kashmiri yearning for the right of self-determination as enshrined in the United Nations Security Council Resolution 47 in 1948. Nehru and Jinnah from Pakistan, they both signed it, but India decided not to give them a right of a self-determination and never provide them. But let me answer your question. For the last 74 years, from the 1947, Kashmir been in a struggle mode. It's always been uprisings and fighting, and Indian illegal occupation has been very strong. But the desperation, the sign of cracking of an Indian union is showing. India's desperation is in Kashmir, and I can tell you, and I think you can record it, the longer India stays in Kashmir, the sooner they will be disintegrated. Not only that Kashmir will be freed, the whole of the India will be disintegrated, like the Russia disintegrated, because when the Russian Empire come to the Kabul, they was become a black hole of the economy, and they finally disintegrated within 10 years. Now the Indian army have moved 900,000 soldiers into the Kashmir, and the longer they will stay, the sooner it will be. So next decade, the 10-year more coming, the Kashmir Azadi, the Kashmir freedom is coming, because Kashmir is no longer remain a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan, the tug of war. It has become an international movement, and within the 10 years, we will see the result. Inshallah ta'ala, the Kashmir will be free.
Salman Khan, it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you for your insights. And for as long as I know you, you have been holding up that flag very, very solidly and very bravely for the Kashmiri people. Our duas that their freedom comes sooner rather than later. Thank you indeed for a wonderful, wonderful discussion. We will hook up again sometime soon. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That was Salman Khan, and he obviously is at the forefront of the South African Kashmiri Action Group. It is 9:52 a.m. exactly. We'll take a break, and when we get back, I'll be joined by my colleague Inayat Wadi to talk about what's coming on his amazing show tonight, inshallah.
Looking to get your kick? Kiki's have now reopened on 235